So let's go through the Rapise 8.6 demonstration. My name is Alexei, and let's go. So Rapise 8.6 and just released in a couple of weeks ago. Some of you already met it. For those who didn't see it yet, you may find information about it in release notes in its usual place. So you go to rapisedoc.inflectra.com and go to release notes, and here they are. You may learn on what has changed in this version of Rapise. I will try to cover this in this demo session. So the plan for this session, I will going to shortly explain what are new features, and I want to make a lot of demonstrations of those features. So most part of today's demo would be some live interactions with Rapise and demonstration of new functionality and new features. So if we try to summarize what was the key improvements in this version, the number one is we have now Inflectra.ai implemented in Rapise. This means that you don't need to bother much about configuration, about tokens. With Inflectra.ai, you basically have AI right there out of the box, and you may use it. And in today's sessions, we will shortly talk about how to enable it, and then we will talk a lot how to use it. Other than that, I'm going to start the demonstration, and for this purpose, I'm going to switch off my video just to have bigger screen layout. And now let's begin. So the first feature is Inflectra.ai, and then there are some related features that add well to this Inflectra.ai, but these are separate features. We will try to use them all together to see some synergy from that. So the Inflectra.ai is built into Rapise, as we said, and you don't need any additional token providers, accounts, whatsoever. So it just works when you have Rapise installed. If it's configured on Spira. It's secure, it's context aware, it's based on Amazon Bedrock, it's vault quality AI implementation. So the first question is how to enable it. This is documented in the Spira documentation. You may also find it in Spira documentation itself, which covers this topic. Long story short, what you need to do while you're Spira administrator, you need to go to system administration, then go to general settings, then find this checkbox Inflectra.ai and set it to yes. So this is all you need to do in Spira, providing that you have Inflectra.ai purchased and enabled. After you have it enabled, you need to go to Rapise. Here I have Rapise. Go to settings, Spira test, and make sure that your connection to Spira is configured, because Rapise needs Spira to have Inflectra.ai. Once it is configured and once you have connection, you may then go to AI dashboard, switch to settings, and you may see that by default, Rapise has Inflectra.ai selected. And that's all. You don't need to configure anything here. All you may need to do is to just click test model to make sure it's working. And you will see model tested successfully. If you see this model tested successfully, you are all set, and you and all your users may use Inflectra.ai. That's it. So configuration, once configuration is successful, we may proceed to the further topics. So this is the most major feature. We talked about how to enable it in Spira and in Rapise. And now the question, okay, we have it. Well, now what to do with it? And we will use it actively throughout today's session. while demonstrating other features. And first other feature is global and common definitions. So we may now have variable maps and repositories shared across scripts and across different RL scripts and within the same RL script as across sheets. And what does it mean? I will just demonstrate you. It's easier to demonstrate. So I'm going to create some testing framework across today's session and cover those features. Before I proceed, let me tell a couple of words about the application. So suppose we have this application under test. It's a simple demo application. It's a CRM application, and its first part is it has some login logic. We have username, password. It's very forgiving. It allows any username, any password. Only limitation is that it should have at least 3 symbols. If it has 3 symbols, then login is acceptable. So this is the first part of application that we are going to automate. So I'm going to create a test case. I'll call it valid login. It would be an RL test case. And before I implement this one, my plan is to have another test case. So I'm not thinking about one scenario. I'm thinking about some set of scenarios I'm going to implement. In this case, I plan to have 2 scenarios. I'm just going to record this first in valid login. So the site is running locally. It's localhost 3000. Let me type here. Oh, how many clicks? I was trying to minimize. The PDF viewer, and it led to these clicks. I better cancel this recording. I better minimize it, and then start recording again. But if I have a clean screen, that would be better. Record. All right. Log in here. Click on username. Some user. Some password. So login recorded. Click on logout. Finish. A very simple and straightforward script. Insert steps here, so nothing fancy. Everything is standard. Now I'm going to use invalid login. And the first step in invalid login would be the same navigation. And if I compare these 2 scripts now, I may see that here I have this URL, here I have this URL, definitely some temporary URL, probably there would be other URL. So I prefer to not copy paste it across the application. I prefer to put it as some configuration variable. And I want to have it as a framework-wide global variable. That's where I'm going to right-click on the shared section and create something called common.rl.xlsx. This place may contain several sheets, maybe one, maybe many. And on these sheets, we may place variables, repositories, and maps. And anything declared within this common RL XLSX is visible across all other RL scripts. So this is a place for shared information. This is, of course, described in the documentation. You may search by in rapisedoc.inflectra.com, find information about common RL XLSX, and learn more if you need some more details about that feature. I want to declare a variable, call it site URL, and use this variable here. Copy and paste. All right, I have site URL. Now I want to use it in my test script. So instead of hard-coded value. I choose variable and site URL here. Go into invalid login and do the same. Variable site URL. So if it ever changes, I may change it right here, or I may just have some logic here to read it from configuration using things like test param, and so using standard features, other standard features of Rapise that were here before. All right, so we have common URL. Now, we have those objects, and if we look at the test cases, I was recording this valid login and object sitting here. My invalid login, if I try to do recording invalid login, it would have its own object repository, but since it is using the same object that I use here, it would be duplication of most of the objects, which is not very good. I want to reuse those objects as much as possible, and that's why I want to declare a shared repository. And that's very simple. So my repository that I want to be shared is in this test case. I may just drag it here to create a repository command in Unveiled. The prefix, so all objects within that repository would have the same prefix. And by default, it's a test case name, but I want to just call it login. So all objects would have login/something naming. And now this repository should be available in all test cases. So instead of using, instead of recording all objects, I may just use them. You see login/ and all objects are here. So I can use username, do set text, invalid user, I think. I will just type login/password, do set text, let it be A1, just two symbols, so it should be invalid by default. Then I click on the login, do click, and then it should be unsuccessful. So after login, it usually quickly shows some error message and stays on that page. So for me, the simplest way to verify that login was truly unsuccessful is to check that login button is still here. That means that we didn't log in successfully. I may use this trick. So I may use navigator, check object visible, and object would be login. So if login is still visible, login button is still visible, then we still logged in, so login is unsuccessful. So that's my test for invalid login. I may now just play both tests to see if they work. I may choose them both and play. First was invalid login, then there is valid login and logout. So great. So what we did now we used a shared repository, and it's shared common repository, and it's shared between two test cases. And we used shared variable, and it's shared against all test cases, and we used this variable in two test cases. One more thing that we may share is maps. And as I said, we may declare these maps right here, or we may declare as many other sheets here as needed and declare our maps there. So I'm going to add the sheet, call it logins, and do something to do some fun with login functionality. I want to declare a map called login. It should have user, password, columns, and it's time to engage our AI functionality to have some fun. I'm pressing on this AI button, you see, show AI panel, while having one of the rows within the map selected. Now I'm choosing the chat I wanted for this situation. I want to generate more rows within this table, within this map. Generate more rows. Add some more logins. Let's see. You see, it generated a number of entries for my login section. I click on apply here, and it suggests me to insert my logins here. So looks good. Probably I don't need that much. Let's have like 3 of them. I think that's enough. All right, so this is the first time we use AI here in this session, and we are going to proceed. I'm hiding this, and now I'm clicking on the empty space. I want to have one more map, and I'm going to add it right now. Click here, and instead of add more rows, I want to use generate data table. I need a number. I need a table with login, user, password, where password is no more than 3 symbols long. Let's see what I get. So it used 3 symbols each time. Maybe that's fine. Let's apply this. And now we insert, and this time it insert the whole table. I may change the name from TBD to unveiled login. That's it. I may shorten some path, and probably I will cut a couple trailing rows just to save some time. All right, so I have 2 maps now, and I want, and they are defined in common URL. This means I may use those maps across my application, and this is what I'm going to use. So here I have valid login, and I want it to work for all the logins from the login map. Right-click, select everything after navigator open. I'm adding just empty line here, just for convenience. Right-click, more, wrap selection into loop. Loop type, map, and map name is logins. So it would repeat the same for the login map. I'm going to use this map. So you see both maps are now available in the dropdown. Logins, user, logins, password. So these should now work for valid logins, and I may just run and see how it works. So I just used AI to help me with data generation, and AI produced some data I used in my actual script. Just going to do exactly the same for the invalid logins. I may just apply invalid login user, password, and here do the same wrap selection to loop. But this time the loop would be for map invalid logins. Right, so I may just play it. And it worked. So I have the test case for valid logins and for invalid logins, which are using shared repository, shared common repository defined in the common URL and in its own sheet. And also I have a couple of maps that are also shared across the whole application and be used in my application. Let's go back to the slides and summarize. So I defined the global global unveiled that is common for all unveiled definitions. And these definitions shared across the whole testing framework, and map state is shared across the sheet. This is something we will dive into a bit later when we will talk about script level definition. So next is a script common sheet. This is similar functionality, but with some nuances that we are going to cover. So I'm going to create one more test case and call it enter data. So the scenario is the following. We have these login, logout test cases that don't require the data, but our CRM application normally requires some data to be entered in it. And in this CRM, we have contact list. It's empty by default, and leads list. So we need to fill those before doing some other more sophisticated testing scenario. And what's interesting is that if we look at add new contact, we have a number of fields like first, last name, phone, and email. And if we go to list and create new list, we also have first, last name, phone, and email. So contacts and lists are very similar, although these are different screens. And this is important for today's demonstration. That's why I just picked up this kind of application, created it intentionally to have two very similar but different screens. So our goal is to fill both leads and contacts before doing any other testing, implementing any other testing scenarios. And this is our goal. All right. So this test case would be called enter data, and it's supposed to populate data. What does it need? It needs some data, and this is what we will start from. I'm going to create a new sheet, and I will use the hash sign in its name. The hash sign means that whatever is defined in this sheet becomes shared between all other sheets within the same URL script. For example, let me call it data. I may have several shared sheets, all starting with hash. For example, I may have hash data, hash variables, hash maps, or I may define everything on one like data sheet. It doesn't matter. So this is just for my convenience. Anyway, anything starting with hash becomes a shared sheet. It's shared between all sheets within the same script. So I may define a variable here. Let me call it app title, for example. And what happens is once I have defined it here, I may use it here. Feelings, awareness for message, variable, and variable I may use app title. You see it appears. So this variable appears here within the URL script. But if I open something like required login and I use variable, I may see that the list of variables doesn't contain app title. So that variable is specific to this test case, enter data, and it's not visible across the whole framework like common variable site URL. So this is the difference. So I have this app title. Let's assign some title, my CRM. And now I want to define some data. First, I will use the same approach as I was using before. So first would be called lead. Each lead on us has, each lead has, in our case, has first name, last name, phone, email. And that's enough information, and it's time to use AI to help us. So we choose again, generate more roles. And as you may see, I have this screen here on the right. You may have by default it here on the bottom, but when it's on the bottom, you may switch between different positions depending on what is more convenient. For example, for generating a comment, I prefer bottom position, or for this kind of interactions, I prefer right position. So it's up to you. You may switch between them whenever needed. All right, so add few more roles. So it suggests me to have some data, as you may see on the screen. And before accepting that, I just have an idea. I want to modify it. What I want all leads to have first name starting with the letter L. Yeah. So this is what I'm asking for. So modify the data or generate new data. I want all names to begin with L. And you see what just happened. I have everything starting with L. And this is what I'm going to use. Again, using this apply button, inserting it here, removing my previous values, and I have some leads generated this way. Again, I'll keep just 3 of them. We don't need much more. And now I want to have contacts. And for contacts, we'll also use the method where I generate everything, not just ask to add more rows. I just ask to generate the whole table, generate data table. I need contact. So first row, last row, email, phone. Let's see what I'll get. Okay, so I have some data here, and again, I want all contact first names start with C. Modify, so all first names start with C capital. That's sometimes it's convenient in testing. So from the data, you may figure out what type of lead, and for such making things like contact and leads, it may be useful. And with AI, you may finally have this kind of data. All right, so we have contacts. Each contact starts with C, each lead starts with L. Let's pick 3 of them. So that's it. You see, I mentioned the columns in different order, and that's fine. So we have some data that we are going to use. And this data is declared in the shared sheet, and this shared sheet would be used in my application. So I'm going to use this data and enter the values. For entering each item, I'm going to use separate sheets. So one sheet would be called enter lead, and another would be called enter contact. For enter lead, I'm going to just for now have message lead message. Now the message lead first name message lead form, something like that. So it's just a prototype, so it's not going to enter anything. It's just going to print some values, but I need to be sure that everything was as expected. For contact, the same contact, contact. All right, so this one, on this sheet, I'll later implement entering the lead values. In this sheet, I will later implement entering the contact values. So I'm going to just loop through the, so I'm filling data, so I need to loop through the map of contacts. And within this map of contacts, I'm going to pull just enter contact sheet, this one. and repeating the same for leads. Going to repeat enter lead functionality for each lead. And that's it. So so it's supposed to iterate through contacts and leads and print information about first name and phone for each of them. So let's just play it and see how it works. So first it goes through 3 contacts and printing information, then it goes through the leads and printing information. So it is working as supported as expected, and it's passing data as needed. And you will see we are looping here, and we using the map value here. So the map state keeps between the sheets. So if we go to some specific role here, then we access the map here, it still points to that particular role. So it makes it more convenient to make some logic that and lay out it across the sheet just to have more clear and more readable test cases. All right, so we have data loading and we implemented script common sheet. So this information on this sheet is common across this script. It's not visible in other RL scripts. It should start with hash sign. And it may have, just like common RL, it may have variables, maps, and repositories. So this is our shared script feature. Now we're going to expand more our testing framework. And I want to implement this functionality of entering contacts and entering leads using the page objects. As I said earlier, these two screens are very, very similar. And if my application is a real-life application, I will probably have I may have hundreds or thousands of screens, and some of them are also very similar, doing very similar things. So if I have page objects, it makes sense to group them in a way that similar functionality fits in different groups or folders while having the same shape. And this is what we have namespaces for. So I'm going to create 2 page objects, one for entering a sheet, one for entering a lead, and another for entering a contact. I'm creating a new page object. I'll call it crm.leads. So probably in this package I plan to have list view, the table, see the table of leads. I want to handle editor view. I may handle just view of the contact and maybe something else if it's relevant for leads. For now, I'm going to create a page object called crm.leads.edit. So the place where we're creating a new lead. Create and use the language RL. And as you may see, we have a folder here. So our page object is put inside the package, then sub-package, and then it's into its place. I'm going to create one more, and we will see how it will be placed. So next one will be called crm contact edit. All right, so we have 2 very similar page objects, each called edit, but each sits on its own namespace, so there is no collision between them. So that's a convenient way to organize your testing framework. Now, I want to have a couple of methods in it. So I'm going to remove this do action here from the list. And I'm going to add an action for adding, do add. And this do add action, if I just add it, just press OK, it will be created with one default parameter called input param1, and I will need to define those input parameters. It's not really practical, so we have a new method. I may declare parameters right here where I'm declaring the new action. So I may have parameters called first name. So this should be alphanumeric, like variable names. Last name, email, phone. So the syntax is similar to JavaScript function. So parameter names separated with commas. Click OK. And see what's happening. I have these input parameters defined here, and I may use them in my action. Right. Let's do the same here. So I'm going to again remove this default do action. I don't want it, and also define. I'll remove. Also define an action do add. This time, I'm going to provide some sample values. So for strings, by default, everything is string unless it is Boolean or it is, unless it is true or false, or unless it is a number. All the rest are strings. So as you may see, I may define string John, since it's not Boolean and it's not number, it would be accepted as just string John. Last name, I explicitly specify the string in the quotes. Phone. So if I specify it like that, it would assume that phone is a number. So here I need to specify quotes just to say that phone is something, it's formatted number. And the last is email. Since it's not Boolean and it's not number, it would assume this is a string. I also may need to use quotes if my default value contains equal sign for some reason. In this case, what would be mean? Otherwise, that's the right syntax. Press OK. I may change, by the way, the order of these parameters. So my two actions may have different order of parameters. Why not? And press OK. So you may see these default values were captured, and they are now used as default values for these actions. So I have two page objects. Each has its own action, doing the same for different types of objects, for contact and for lead. Now I'm going to use it in my enter data script, but I'm going to use them together with AI. So I just want to use AI command, enter new value, enter new person, and specify the input parameters. First name, last name. I'm using the curly braces. The curly braces, so each curly brace means it is either the parameter to AI command or it's a variable. Some shared or create label variable or a variable defined locally. In this case, I don't have such a variable, so I will specify these input values explicitly. First name, last name, email, and something like that. So you see by default the editor of the AI action is multi-line. So if I just hit enter, I go to a new line. So I may either press 10 to leave it or click elsewhere. So in both cases, I will leave this editor field. Now I want to specify parameters to pass values. So first is first name, and you see here I use curly braces. Here I don't use the curly braces, and variable would be taken from lead first name, then last name, last name. And if I'm hitting here and doing shift enter, I'm going right to the variable name field. So I may go to like phone, the name phone, and mail, lead, email. All right, so I have a command that is supposed to use one of these modules. Let me double click here and let me generate it. I didn't the home right click. Let me click again. Usually it takes like 1 or 2 seconds. I don't know what's happening. Let's see. Okay, it's working. So the code was generated, and you see it uses list module to produce this action. Let me now just copy it and paste it into the enter contact place, and keep everything except use the contact modules here. Now, so I have exactly the same text of command, and you may see I intentionally don't use the leads or contacts word here, so I'm not really specific. Now I'm going to generate the code for this command, and let's see what will happen. And you see it uses the lead because it gets confused. It doesn't know what is better to choose. I have two very similar modules doing very similar actions, and it lacks the information about what kind of person I'm going to enter. So it is going to be something more or less random. So it chooses using some other criteria. So AI actually is not really exact here because it doesn't have enough information for that. And this is where we are going to use one more feature, new feature in 8.6. So exactly the same AI command, producing not what we want, but we want this command to produce different output depending on the context of this script. So I want for contact, I want to use contacts right here. And this is where I'm going to use AI comment feature. So I'm using double hash, and you see it's something purple, not green. It's not a comment, it's additional attribute for AI generator. Then hash module, that's a full text. And here I may specify which module I want to be involved or which page object I want to be used for AI generation. In my case, it's CRM contact. So I want this page to only focus on CRM contact page objects and not look to any others. So now, if I generate this line again, it gets updated and it uses contact instead of leads. So it ignores the leads completely because it only looks into the CRM contacts package and whatever page objects are defined right here. I may use the same for leads, of course, and I may use it another way. So again, double hash module. And here I want to say not, exclamation means ignore. And I want to ignore CRM contact. So I don't want to use CRM contacts when generating the code on this page. So everything except CRM contacts. Generating it again. And you may see it uses leads. And I may combine as many as needed such statements to focus AI to use the things I want it to use. I may say module, CRM, lead, asterisk. So don't use contact, focus on leads, and as many such statements as needed to control how AI is behaving. Click on the magic wand, and it should be exactly the same as before because it already was using leads. And that was the explanation for this new feature, folders and namespaces. So these are three things that I use together. First, we may specify the namespace when we add in a module. Then we may group the modules across namespaces, and we may see this in the object tree within the module section. And we may specify which modules we do want or do not want to be used for AI code generation, just to have better and more fine-grained control of what code gets generated. And this is what we have. We may now just play this enter data section and see how it works. So it enters each person. For each person, it's using edit duet for contacts, and for leads, it's using lead edit duet. So it uses it properly, and we may see this information. So that ends the section about the folders and namespaces, and now we are going to show one more feature, is the code generation. Let's suppose that our data is not such fine-grained and we may have some inconsistencies in it. For example, the phone numbers. The phone number may be taken from some other source, or user may enter it himself. So it may be formatted in different ways. It may be like that. It may be like this. So I think you get an idea. It may use something like that. So you see, so the numbers may be different, and we want to harmonize them. So we change the leads. So inside the enter leads module, let us just print this phone name and phone number. Tester message phone. Oh, it's just variable phone. So inside the leads model, we print in the phone, and we may just play this part. So this part, I don't want to play it for contact, so I'm right-clicking and choosing play selection. So we see we get these not really harmonized phone numbers within our page object, and we need to do something about that. What we want to do is we want to define a function, harmonize phone number. So this is the way I prefer to use this AI coding. You may ask it to generate the whole function. I like to control the signature naming of the function, but you may get the whole function just from the record. So it would take phone as an input and keep the format of the phone number while use last 10 digits, ignore all other symbols and digits, and format it as 10 digits, symbol like that, and return. So this is what I want to be implemented in this function. I'm selecting it, and I click again on the AI button. And the code generator appears in this case. I may just, since I put everything in the comment, I could put this description here. I have the description right in the code, so I may just say implement. It would get the idea of what I want, and it's supposed to cover the functionality I want to have. All right, so it has some implementation hopefully doing what I wanted to do. So I may just apply it. As you see, it has the function implementation, and this is usual for it also has some notes and comments. I don't want those. I wanted to just keep those this implementation, and I want to try it. So in my lead editor, I want to use this function harmonize phone number variable phone. So, and I want to print this value. Tester message variable last result. So it would return this harmonized phone to the last result, and we are going to use it right here. Now, I want to play this part again. You see it's selected while I'm editing this part. What I'm going to use, I'm going to do hit shift while pressing play. And shift and play means repeat last play selection. So you don't need to go and right click and do play selection, we'll just repeat, and this is for convenience. And you see the function is fixing all the phone numbers, and fixed values are displayed here. So now I may use this harmonized data for entering it into the application, or I may use like similar approach for like comparing data and so on and so forth. So it's a very common thing that where you need this kind of function to be quickly implemented. And what I used the code generation right in JavaScript in Rapise. That helped me to implement what I wanted. So this code generation may be not that effective when you need some global needs, and I will more like the advanced things. But for such simple things, it's very, very efficient. And also we demonstrated this shift plus play item. We demonstrated action signature creation, where I specified parameters for do action. And also we shown the editing of AI command. Now there are a few more features I'm going to cover very quickly, and then we may proceed to finalize and proceed to Q&A section. So first of all, for those who use execution and CI/CD pipelines on Linux and so on, we have new option where Rapise Launcher, it's not version of Rapise Launcher that you install with npm package, and you may run it like on Linux. It has additional parameter called report, and it may output report in JUnit XML, which is accepted by many CI/CD tools like CodeBuild and so on. So it's just a new feature that should help you integrating the test execution with your pipelines if needed. We enhanced the AI command. I cannot just demonstrate, but I hope you will feel it. So we have some internal measurements, and we see how everything was improved in this area. And finally, we have new features in feature Rapise. It is an MCP server, and it's available as a preview. So what is Rapise MCP server? We'll try to show it very quickly. I have VS Code here, and I have client here. So MCP may be used with any client that supports MCP. It may be Copilot, it may be Amazon Hero, it may be Cloud Code, whatever you prefer. I use client just because its interface is simplest for demonstrating the configuration of MCP. So I click here on the MCP servers, configure, and as you may see, I have a Rapise MCP server specified here. You may see this configuration. Basically, this is simply URL to localhost, some port, in this case 8275/MCP. So this is the whole configuration to have Rapise to connect to Rapise MCP server. If I just try to connect to it, oh, connect. Let me see. I didn't restart. Sorry. If I restart Rapise, so by default the value is 0. And while value is 0, and it's default situation, when you try to connect, you get something like that. So MCP server is not enabled, and that's default state. If you want to try it, and if you have some ideas how to use it, you may enable it. So you go to settings, global, specify the port. I usually use this one. You may use just whatever. And you need to have the same port defined in your configuration. And if the port is okay, when you restart Rapise, it should connect. So right now it's not connecting, so I need to close Rapise and start it again. And now, if I try to connect again, so it's connected. And once it is connected, what we have here, we may see the tools that are exposed by Rapise, a number of them, each of them is described, but usually with XCP we don't look at the tools, we just use chat to accomplish some tasks. For example, I may ask it to move all test cases related to login into basic field. So I want to have a folder here and move all login to the basic group. And enter. This should be it. Okay. Let's see what's going on. While it's running, it may ask some questions to allow me something. It should figure out what test cases I mean, or should execute relevant MCP actions. One note I wanted to do is that when using MCP with a Rapise, you must have exactly one instance of Rapise. If you have several Rapise instances open, you may get with a mess, because we have just one port, and you must have just one Rapise. So be careful. So this is like preview feature, so you need to understand what you do. But if you know what you do, you will get very powerful outcome. So you see what it did. It just moved. I shouldn't use this backslash in the end. It moved all the test cases from into the group. I specified. Okay, let me ask it to fix. Let's move all basic to basic loading, something like that. And I may actually do many various things with MCP, like run, and it would see the results of the execution, may mark some text. For example, mark all with draft text. So it would set draft text for all test cases. So it decided to do this just for 2 test cases. I was not really explicit, but I mean, always I asked it to do it for all test cases. So this MCP enables the chat interface for Rapise application, and just maybe one more feature here. You may create test cases here, which is important. So when you designing your test set, so it creates empty test cases, or it may clone test cases started from some template that is all available. And one more thing, you may run test cases. Run, enter data test series. I may run one test case. I may run test cases by text. I could say, for example, run test cases not marked with a draft tag, or microtest needed that has some specific tag. Something didn't work when I executed. What has happened? Yeah. I moved so my common repository moved, and it's not, it's now inside basic login. That's why it's not found. That's why it's not working. But it's not related to the feature I was going to show. It's maybe easily fixed. It's like basic login. Okay, and it should start working. Anyway, I hope you got an idea of the of possible use of MCPE together with Rapise. You may inspect those tools. You may use them for your own good. And that ends my plan for today's presentation. That summarizes all the features I wanted to show. I think we may proceed to just Q&A. Dermot?
Yeah, so we had one question referring to the AI model. So on the Rapise AI dashboard, can the AI configuration utilize my own on-site AI instead of Inflectra's AI? If yes, would the same functionality be available within the tool?
So short answer is yes. You may use your own AI, so you need to go to AI dashboard, and as you may see that besides Inflectra.ai, we support different AI providers, and you may specify, so but this is selected, for example, this would use OpenAI, that would use Azure, and that would use Amazon. So that's the way you may switch between, and here you may specify different models for your purpose, and all the same functionality would be available, but this time it would spend your tokens, so you will be paying for that.
So I suppose if they're specifying an on-site AI, I suppose on-site these days can be kind of a fuzzy definition, but they would be talking about maybe an Azure or OpenAI instance, which is private. And in that case, they can use the Azure option there.
Yeah, so we have some, we had, for example, customers who use exactly this. It's called Azure deployment. And when you have deployment, you have some specific internal URL. So you use this URL, you use model name, and so you use Azure private AI instance together with Rapise.
Okay. So that's really the only question for now. I'm aware of time, obviously. We wanted to cover the features, so we went a little bit longer, but I suppose if anybody has any queries, then they can get in touch with us through the usual channels, or go to our website and look up Rapise. The new functionality should be on the version history. And failing that, by all means, get in touch with us and we can talk to you about Rapise and how it might impact your own organization. So thank you, Alexei, for your demo, and thanks to everyone for their attendance. And we look forward to seeing, oh, hang on, there's a new question. When you generate the code for AI command, is it in JavaScript? I don't see how you change it to RBI.
Yeah. So when we generate the code for AI command, it's a set of JavaScript statements. It doesn't change RVL. So RVL stays exactly the same. And for internally, it uses this JavaScript for execution. And you may even edit it right here and specify and modify something right here. If needed, if you think this generation needs to be tweaked. So it's not open, but it's not changing anything here. So the code that gets executed is shown here, and this is the code that is actually executed.
Okay, great. So sorry about that. With that said, I think we're ready to finish. And thanks again, Alexei, for your demo and answering your questions. And we hope to see you on the next webinar. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much. Thanks, everyone.